Run your day with Runday.ai.
Hello there. Happy Wednesday. How are you today?
Too bad, Sanjay. Thank you very much. All good. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm in Fort Lauderdale today. I was in Miami last week. Where are you calling from?
I'm currently in Bangalore, India.
Beautiful. Our family has one house in Gurgaon, and then I was born in Delhi.
Okay, wow. How often do you visit India?
I was there for a little while before COVID. I haven't been back, but I tried to go last year. There was a weird rule with the airlines. I was going to Bangkok, and my plan was to go to India, then fly to Bangkok, and fly back to the US. And they wouldn't give me the visa fast enough for that. And so, which was strange because I've done multi country flights before, never had a problem, but they were getting stricter. And so I could go to India and back, and then Bangkok and back, but I didn't want to do that, so I didn't go last year, even though I was planning on it. Yeah, it's weird. They're making all these. I think if
Yeah,
I had just gotten the visa, you know, earlier, it would have been okay. But by the time I was booking my flights, it was too late to do that. Well, tell me more about what you're doing for your customers.
what do I do for my customers? So, see, from a company perspective, future relevant consulting, we spend a lot of time helping startups sharpen their strategy, become investor ready, support their capital raises, and help them navigate the journey from idea to scalable.
hmm And so it's kind of an accelerator.
It's kind of a IB come consulting or advisory firm.
And then what are founders getting wrong today about scaling their businesses and fundraising that you help with?
See, what I see consistently two patterns, with the founders. Uh, One, believing that the funding creates scale, while in reality, Sanjay, scale attracts funding.
hmm
And second, believing a brilliant idea is all it takes to succeed. While
Of
in
course.
reality, yeah, the right execution is what drives success. What is happening is these days, founders spend too much time polishing their pitch decks instead of, focusing on their product or customer experience. Investors are not really funding the slides; they are funding evidence. Evidence that customers genuinely want the product, evidence that the team can execute, evidence that the market is digital. So if those signals are real, capital usually follows. And so they need to understand that capital is a byproduct, not the start. Startups, very rarely you'll find startups failing because of lack of ideas. It's because of
Yeah.
lack of execution discipline that.
One of the expressions that I've heard is more startups die for indigestion than starvation, right? So it's not that they don't have good ideas. They have so many of them, they don't focus. And that kills more startups than, even running out of capital. It's just doing too many things. Not just startups. I mean, we have clients that are large established companies that, were more focused as they grew, and then they light up too many products. There's too many acquisitions. All kinds of things happen, and there's just a challenge for growth at that point. What makes a business today truly future relevant?
Business to see this topic, I would say, would be very, very close to my heart. As you might have noticed, Sanjay, my Amazon best-selling books as well as my name of the company is feature relevant. So I might be slightly biased here. uh,
Of course, that's
yeah,
what I'm asking. Yeah.
Business becomes truly future relevant when it is solving a future structural global problem, not a temporary threat. What I mean by that is normally four things that matters in my view. One is the problem should still exist 10 years from now. Secondly, if there is technology involved, that should give the company a compounding advantage. Third is the business model should scale without the cost growing at the same. And fourth, obviously, that everything should be built around a strong customer first design thinking approach. You know, Look at it in this way. Everyone today involving the investors is chasing the buzz, deep tech, space tech, or so on and so forth. But what people miss in this is money doesn't only flow in the headline sector. It flows across the entire ecosystem. If I have to explain it with an example, computers became big, Sanjay. You saw Microsoft then build computers. It built the operating system and made massive value. Similarly, today, while AI is a buzz, opportunities are also around supporting or the adjacent space. Traditional businesses will not die; they are just evolving. I say people will always wear clothes, but today a brand using say eco-friendly materials like bamboo or sustainable fibers and all that, they will become far more relevant than traditional manufacturing.
Yeah.
Fintech will always stay relevant. Sports, entertainment, alcohol beverages. Consumer demand doesn't disappear. It just evolves. So being future relevant to me is not about chasing trends. Rather, it's about spotting where the value will shift across the ecosystem and executing consistently.
What are some of the things you've learned about this by working with founders and capital, especially when it comes to companies that actually exit?
Okay. Multiple things. Few things I would say. What I feel is when it comes specifically to startups, this entire ecosystem being in a boom now, it's not just about innovation. It's about right people and disciplined execution. You know, I've seen multiple companies, Sanjay, with average ideas becoming very successful because the founders executed well. So people matter more than PowerPoints. And I've seen brilliant ideas fail because founders were too attached to their first work. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest learning with this entire thing, if I have to summarize, is that great founders, they don't fall in love with their idea or the solution. They fall in love with the problem and solving the problem. That's what is the biggest level.
So you've seen a lot of them pivot. So like they have a problem and they have an initial idea, but then, the concept evolves as they actually embrace customers, as they find the product market fit. Are you seeing the best founders pivoting into that?
So let me start with this, and based on my experience, pivoting is quite often misunderstood. Everyone needs to understand that pivot doesn't mean abandoning your dream. It simply means changing the path to reach that vision, you know. And the best founders pivot based on learnings from the data, the feedback, the customer behavior, not out of panic. Imagine if the market is constantly telling you something different from what is there in your pitch deck. Obviously, the market is usually right. So, listening early and consistently acting on it is one of the most underrated founder skills which I feel around about Europe.
And that's part of what you help founders with.
Yes, absolutely. That's where we add value.
So what if somebody wants to work with you either as an investor or as a founder, what's the best way to do that? Should they reach out to you on LinkedIn or just go to your website and connect there?
Yes, absolutely. See, there are multiple ways. I'm always open to, um, connect with founders, co-investors, ecosystem players globally, especially the co-investors and those thinking long term to exchange ideas, to evaluate emerging sectors and collaborate, especially around building high quality scalable, bringing whatever practical experiences I've gathered along the way. So anyone, I'm happy to, connect over LinkedIn, DM, WhatsApp, email, anything is fine. Absolutely fine. Always available.
Yeah, it looks like you actually offer a founder audit, which is really interesting, probably very exciting to some of the audience. All right, well, thank you so much for joining. This was fascinating.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you very much, Sanjay. I really enjoyed this. Uh, with uh, career extending over 2 decades for me, anything which uh, I can contribute value in this entire ecosystem, uh, based on my experience of working closely with investors, institutions across 100 countries, and corporate giants like CS, Cognizant, and others. Uh, I'll be very happy to support in whatever way to scale or raise capital or build a future relevant company together. Absolutely pleasure. And also best wishes to you and your entire Runday AI team, Sanjay. and to the listeners and followers. Hope this was
Certainly was. Thank you so much.
Run your day with Runday.ai.